Hey everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm so glad you're here. I thank you for subscribing and for sharing my content and for writing whatever questions you may have that you want me to answer. I am so grateful for all of the work that people in this field are doing to elevate the conversation about coercive control. As you know, that is truly my niche. I believe that children are experiencing coercive control in the family system, whether it's overt or covert. And frankly, we have to do something about this. And so, how can we help our children? I mean, these are always the conversations I'm trying to have. If you don't follow me on Instagram or certainly on X or Twitter, I am constantly just trying to lay out some truths here, okay? When an adult victim has suffered coercive control, even if the abuser has never been physically violent, it doesn't mean it's not coercive control. I always feel like I have to reiterate this. Coercive control is not invisible abuse. It may feel intangible to the victim, but it is not invisible abuse. It is intimidation when someone intimidates you in a room or when someone actually calls you horrible names or leaves you a note that is horrible. That's visible. Those are things that actually we can see and we can feel. It's the gaslighting oftentimes that may make us feel like something isn't tangible, right? And that's a psychological tactic that's used by abusers. Manipulation is used by abusers. Isolation, you don't even know you're not seeing your friends as much, right? Or you're not going out maybe to events at a local school or something like that. This is how abusers isolate us. And what their goal is to make us feel shame, to make us feel inadequate, to make us feel like we're not good enough or that we should do more for this abuser. People always ask me, is this codependency? I mean, it can be for some people. It sure can be. It can be this idea that they just want to take care of people all the time. But I don't think, and I know others in the field agree with me, that codependency comes first oftentimes. I think in general, most people who end up in abusive relationships are not codependent, but are actually people who just are kind of decent human beings who want to work hard at things, who try hard to fix things, are conscientious and agreeable as the Big Five personality test determines over and over again. We see this with victims and survivors. And so for me, I actually get a little offended when people call victims codependent. Because the reality is the goal of the abuser is to make the victim codependent. And so that victim didn't go into the relationship saying, I'm going to run around and walk on eggshells. I'm going to make sure he's happy all the time. No, 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 no. That's what the abuser's intent was. So they don't show up with signs saying, I'm an abuser, right? And they certainly probably were someone that you thought was a wonderful person. You didn't fall in love with a mean, nasty person. And so when you fell in love with that person, and then they slowly continue to push the boundaries over and over and over again, they're pushing boundaries. And rather than us pushing back because we are conscientious, we tend to be agreeable. Rather than us pushing back, the abuser gets to keep pushing in on us and making our world smaller and smaller and smaller. So I started this YouTube video about children because that's exactly what they're doing with our children. They're going to make our children, try to mold our children into who they want our children to be. Because again, these abusers do not truly love, they do not know how to authentically love their children and certainly anyone else. And so they mold their children to what they want. Now, maybe they want a child who never gets a job, never gets their license, because if they do, then they're not as easily controlled, right? Or maybe they want a child who only plays field hockey and becomes really like excellent at field hockey, but the kid doesn't really want to play field hockey. They want to play soccer. Or maybe they actually just want a kid who's going to align with them. And they don't care what the kid does. They're super permissive in their behaviors, authoritarian overall, really omnipresent in the household. The children know they have to do whatever they can to appease the abuser, just like you did. But they might become more permissive, as I said in a prior YouTube about the lure of tweens and teens. This is what abusers do. They just might let them do whatever the heck they want, which might mean they don't have to get a job, a part-time job at 16, or maybe does mean it's okay if they're not doing their best in school, whatever their best is, right? No pressure here. And so abusers are going to continually compromise the child and create a smaller space for them over and over and over again. And by creating that smaller space, what they do is they make it easier for the children to be controlled. And so I want you to know, as protective parents, that's not codependency. That's not you in this relationship with low self-worth. That's an abuser who really worked hard to do that to you and is working hard to do that with your children. And so my next YouTube video is going to be about how this does impact self-worth, self-confidence in children, right? And so really knowing that our children are growing up and their brains are developing, and this is really harmful stuff for them. So thank you so much, and I hope that was helpful, and look out for the next video where I promise I'll be covering this self-worth issue of children.